What if an ancient poem held a map to inner peace? Well, that's really the promise of the Bhaktambara Stotra, a sacred hymn made up of 48 verses. So today we're going to dive into its timeless wisdom and see what it can teach us about our own lives.
And really, this idea of a beacon, that's the key to the whole thing. It's not about blind faith. It's about having a clear light to navigate by. The entire hymn is built on this promise, that no matter how lost we might feel, there's a path toward clarity.
So, where does a text like this even come from? Well, the Bhaktambara Stotra is an ancient homage to Lord Rishabhanatha. He's revered as the very first Tirthankara. Think of him as a spiritual guide who has conquered the cycle of death and rebirth, and crucially, helps others do the same.
At its heart, this is a devotional work. Each of those 48 verses is like a key, They're crafted with these really powerful metaphors, and each one is meant to unlock a deeper understanding of reality and guide the devotee towards spiritual freedom.
The entire hymn basically paints this incredible portrait of a perfected being who is called the Jain. But this isn't just some simple description. The verses use a whole series of amazing metaphors to help us even begin to grasp this ideal. So let's jump into a few of the most powerful ones.
First up, the Jain is seen as a lamp of pure knowledge, whose light just cuts right through the darkness of our own ignorance.
Then, he's described as this endless sea of compassion, offering a safe harbor from all the storms of worldly sorrow.
And finally, he's the ultimate victor, someone who has completely broken their karmic bonds, transcending that endless cycle of birth and death for good.
And here's the thing, a Jinnah isn't some distant god to be worshipped. The term really points to a role model, a living, breathing example that provides a clear path for anyone to follow toward their own liberation.
So when you bring all these qualities together, that brilliance, that purity, tranquility, and eternal consciousness, you get a really complete picture. And it's not just some abstract ideal. The hymn presents it as a state of being that's actually attainable. Okay, so we have this portrait of a perfect being. But what does that actually mean for us right here, right now? This is where the hymn shifts from admiration to action, and it turns the Jain's example into a map for our own inner journey.
And that journey, it's framed as an inner battle. On one side, you've got the inner enemies we all struggle with: anger, greed, pride. And on the other, you have the virtues that the hymn champions as their antidotes: nonviolence, truthfulness, and self-mastery. The path to freedom is presented as a victory over ourselves.
So this whole path is broken down into 4 pretty clear stages. It all kicks off with the foundation of ethical living in our day-to-day lives. From there, it moves to devotional surrender, finding guidance in the ideal. And this practice is what fuels the inner victory over our own worst impulses, which ultimately leads to the final destination, moksha, or total liberation.
This line from the 25th verse, man, it just drives the whole point home. The hymn teaches that real power isn't about controlling empires or markets or anything external. It's about achieving complete and total mastery over your own inner world.
So even though this is an ancient text, it's anything but a museum piece. Let's take a look at how the Bhaktambara Stotra is a vibrant, living practice for millions of people all around the world right now.
You've probably seen this number before, right? In so many traditions, 108 is sacred. For devotees of this hymn, it's a really practical tool. They use 108 bead malas, or prayer beads, to chant the verses. It's a physical anchor for a mental practice, something that helps focus the mind and truly internalize the hymn's virtues.
And the results of making this a daily practice can be so profound. It's not just a ritual, it's a real tool for transformation. It starts by cultivating inner stillness and clarity, which then helps guide ethical decisions out in the real world. Over time, this fosters a deep spiritual confidence, which helps remove obstacles and dispel our personal fears.
And get this, in our hyper-connected world, this ancient practice has gone digital. Devotees from every continent gather in online spaces to chant together, share translations, and support one another. It's created this incredible global community, all united by a centuries-old hymn. And that brings us to the final, universal prayer from the 48th verse. This just beautifully captures the compassionate heart of the hymn. It's not just a prayer for your own salvation, but for the liberation of absolutely all beings.
Which really just leaves us with a question for our own lives. In a world that is filled with constant noise and distraction, what can an ancient hymn like this truly teach us about that essential, personal journey of finding stillness within?